Welcome everybody to Don't Mess with Texas with Gregg Dixon. He has some insights for us on the grid in Texas. So welcome, Greg. Take it away, man.
How you doing? Wow, what a crowd! Did you have fun last night? I feel like I'm really part of my tribe here. Do I have a clicker to click through? Need one of those? We're operating in real time this morning. Let's see if I can figure this out. Forward means
green is advance.
Green is advance. Even I can figure that out. I like to walk and talk, and I like to keep things interactive. I feel like I'm part of my tribe in the cryptocurrency world. It's weird, right? I mean, it's like it's not weird. It's really weird to me. It's like, you know, keep Austin weird. It's such a great place to have a cryptocurrency conference. We got D++. I had to augment my presentation with the laser gaze. Is D++ in the audience? No? I didn't think she would be. Got to meet her. So in keeping with the spirit of Austin and keeping things weird, we're going to talk about weird stuff like actually getting paid to reduce your electricity consumption so much that you actually not only eliminate your entire electricity bill for mining cryptocurrency, but you actually get paid more than the total cost of electricity, which happened in 2021. We're going to dig into that. So the objective is very simple. You're spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year on building out mining capacity, and of course we all know that the single largest expense of crypto mining is the cost of power. And so you've got to make really good decisions about where you site those mines, how you structure your power contracts, and how you take advantage of the flip side of paying for power, which is monetizing your flexibility. And in an age of what we call distributed energy resources, a lot of people don't realize the full value of that flexibility. We're going to cover that today. We're also going to talk about the future and reliability of power and green and clean power, which are important considerations when you're making decisions about power costs. So here's the agenda. Of course, you're going to have to sit through the shameless plug of Voltus. We'll talk about the age of DERs, power costs by market. I was approached this morning by somebody who asked me, when we were talking about various markets, about SPP. How many people here know what SPP means? Now, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's kind of shocking to me that so few people know what the Southwest Power Pool is. We're going to talk through costs by market. The title of this presentation is Don't Mess with Texas, ? There's crypto mining in every one of the major US and Canadian power markets. We'll talk through the economics of that. On the flip side of the costs are this notion of stacking and weaving distributed energy resources, and you can do that in every one of these markets. How you monetize that is actually really complicated, but we'll talk through the basics, and then we'll talk about the Voltus coin exchange, and then I'll give you my hot take on if I were putting a 100 megawatt crypto mine in place, where would I site it today? All right, so this is the shameless plug. Voltus is to electricity markets what Airbnb is to real estate. So just as Airbnb has a marketplace software platform that connects two sides of a market, visitors and hosts, to take advantage of underutilized apartments and homes to deliver side gig value to those home and apartment owners and more choice to visitors, Voltus does the same with electricity markets. On the right, what's depicted are the 9 wholesale power markets in the US and Canada that are desperate for the value of grid services from distributed energy resources. Because these grid operators are living in an age of climate change. It used to be that their economic model of how they plan for power resources was pretty simple. You got a bunch of economists in a room. They looked at power demand growth over the past 20 years of 2%. They put 2% in their model, and that's how they manage the power grid. But today, that's very different. We're living through the effects of Winter Storm Uri, wildfires out west, flooding in the Northeast, Hurricane Ida, and it's only going to get worse. They desperately need what's on the left, these distributed energy resources that are behind energy user meters. And there are hundreds of use cases. There's electric vehicles. There's on-site generators. There's crypto mines, steel mills, Wi-Fi thermostats, coming to market at scales we've never seen before. And so Voltus is a marketplace software platform that orchestrates and monetizes all of these things no matter what market you're in, no matter what type of distributed energy resource you have, and no matter what product or service that market will pay for. We'll dive into that. Okay, but let's step back. Let's look at what the grid's problem is today and what the future looks like that crypto mining factors into in a very major way. I like to provide an analogy. If you think back to the 70s and the paradigm of computing, we had mainframes and what were known as dumb terminals. That was 100% of the computing paradigm. Today, as we all know and as we all live, computing has moved to the edge. It's been distributed. It's been digitized in ways that we all can appreciate. We have more computing power on our smartphones than any mainframe had in the 1970s. We've taken advantage of decentralization, digitization, and the benefits to our lives are countless. We all can appreciate the value of Instagram and Facebook and all the things that we have on our smartphones. Of course, we know the value of that transformation of every single industry, whether it's manufacturing or it's hospitality. Yet, electricity, which is one of the 10 largest industries, has yet to truly transform, has yet to truly decentralize and digitize. There's a whole host of reasons for that, but now we have to. We're being forced to. You can't build central power stations, the mainframes of the electric grid. We can't afford to have dumb buildings, dumb loads, dumb terminals of the electric grid. We have to unleash the power of technology to address today's issues. You can't build a coal-fired or a natural gas power plant in 3 to 5 years. Yet these problems that are plaguing our electric grids demand answers today. Look no further than last year. At almost this time, when the hub of the known energy universe was brought to its knees by climate change, the promise of decentralizing, decarbonizing, and digitizing is in fact staggering. By the year 2030, the combined lithium-ion battery capacity of electric vehicles in the United States will be more than 2 times the combined electricity generation capacity of all central power stations in the United States. You have to take all the coal, the hydro, the gas, the nukes, multiply that by 2. That's the amount of power that will exist in American garages in the year 2030. 2 million megawatts of distributed energy resources. To put that in perspective, the coincident peak electricity demand of the United States, our peak demand is 800,000 megawatts. Now that's one use case of a distributed energy resource. Crypto also is a huge distributed energy resource. Now, of course, if we had the benefit of orchestrating those electric vehicles this time last year, we would have avoided the effects of Winter Storm Uri. We would have avoided hundreds of lost lives and almost $300 billion of economic disaster. That's the promise of distributed energy resources. Now, of course, what's driving this are these 3 major trends on the left that are transforming a $3 trillion global annual electricity spend and moving it to distributed energy resources that are depicted on the right. We have the unending growth of renewable power. That is only picking up steam. Unfortunately, renewable power is intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine. The wind doesn't always blow. What threatens the clean energy transition is that simple fact. None of us will find it acceptable to have anything but 100% power all of the time, to power our modern economies and lives. We need a backstop and balancing resource, and DERs are the ideal partner. We know that from crypto mining. It's a perfectly flexible load to backstop and balance the grid if the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow for periods of time. We also have the electrification of things. Past 10 to 15 years in the United States, we've had virtually no electricity demand growth. We've just gotten more efficient. we're seeing demand growth for the first time at unprecedented levels, putting even more pressure on an antiquated grid. We're electrifying the automobile. We're electrifying all energy. Industrial loads are weaning themselves off of natural gas for electric loads. We're swapping out our home heating systems to be electrified with heat pumps. We have the rise of crypto mining and data centers. It's putting huge pressure on an already saddled grid. And then, of course, we have the effects of climate change. This will only get worse. The good news is we can take advantage of largely existing resources. They're in the ground today. They're all around us. We have internet addressable machines at scales we've never seen before. There are 50 million Wi-Fi thermostats. You probably have one in your home, a Google Nest, an Ecobee. 50 million Wi-Fi thermostats connected to the internet in real time is 50,000 megawatts of power, instantly controllable. That's more power than the entire state of California consumes. Again, that's one use case of hundreds of use cases of distributed energy resources. So let's get to crypto. Of course, crypto is putting a lot of pressure on grids, as we know. It's the fastest growing electricity load that human beings have ever seen. I'm sure you're familiar with the Cambridge Center for these data sources of tracking crypto load growth, which we have on the left. What we see is the share of country electrical load on the right. We now know that China, Russia, Kazakhstan, 3 of the top 5 largest countries for crypto mining have essentially shut it down. So what's happening? Well, 35% of the market was already in the United States, about 4 to 5 gigawatts of crypto mining load across all markets. Well, where is that load from those 3 countries that have essentially shut it down going to go? It's going to come here. It's going to go to Canada. Probably 75, 80% of all crypto mining over the next 5 years will migrate to the US and Canada. We have to be mindful of this impact as we site new mines. It's not just about the cost of power today, which is lowest still in ERCOT. It's about the cost of power tomorrow. So, audience participation. What is the name of the wholesale power market in Texas? Anyone know? You all know what it is. You all know it's ERCOT. Does anybody know what that stands for? I bet a year ago, very few people in this audience actually knew what ERCOT stood for. Who cares? It's out of sight, it's out of mind. I've been in this industry for 20 years. It's the most boring stuff because it's always there. When it's not, it becomes the most exciting thing. We all know what ERCOT is. My mom knew what ERCOT was after Winter Storm Uri. But in fact, there are 3 wholesale power markets in Texas alone. We all know what ERCOT is. It's the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. It is a state jurisdictional wholesale power market. But in North Texas and Northeast Texas, we have SPP, the Southwest Power Pool. Unlike ERCOT, SPP is a Federal Energy Regulatory Commission jurisdictional power market. And we have a slice of MISO, which is the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator in East Texas. These are great options, actually, for siting mines, but it's important to know where they are. So let me bore you to tears with some data. Now, if you're an energy geek like me, this stuff keeps you awake. It's pretty exciting things. Let me walk you through this eye chart. What you see on the left is a map of all 9 US and Canadian wholesale power markets. Not to be confused with distribution level electric utilities, of which there are 3,300 in the United States and Canada. These are wholesale power markets like ERCOT, Southwest Power Pool, CalISO, the Alberta Electric System Operator. These are the transmission level grid operators that essentially ensure the balance of supply and demand. Their purpose is to run an economical and reliable power market. Now, it may be hard for some of you to see the table on the right, so I'm going to walk you through what it basically is showing you. It's showing you an average of the wholesale market real-time electricity prices on a dollar per megawatt hour basis averaged on an annual basis between the years of 2019 and 2021. Now, some of you may say that can't be right. ERCOT cannot be that expensive. $75 a megawatt hour, 7 cents a kilowatt hour. That's crazy. We're all looking for 2 cents a kilowatt hour power. Well, for 2021, that's true. I have a backup slide in here that shows 2021 removed. But the fact of the matter is 2021 was a very difficult year economically in power markets. Those are the power costs. And you might say to yourself, what the heck is IESO? And why is it so cheap? That's Ontario. For any of you who know Ontario, you also know that the global adjustment charge, which is the demand charge, represents about 60% of the power bill. It's not in the energy price. So before you go all flooding into Ontario, be aware of that. Now, second column is the value of flexibility. Crypto load carries with it a very unique characteristic. Voltus serves about half of the major US and Canadian crypto miners today on our platform. Crypto miners have the ability to curtail their entire mining capability, their entire electrical load in seconds. That resource is very, very valuable to these power markets for a whole host of reasons we're going to get into: capacity, energy, and what are known as ancillary services. So the second column represents the value of that full flexibility. And this is where things get interesting in 2021. The total cost of power in ERCOT and Southwest Power Pool actually paid you to consume electricity for that entire time frame if you offered in the full value of your flexibility as a crypto mine. This gives you the total cost of power, of course, in the third column. And then we include the reliability rating and the percentage of power on those wholesale markets that's delivered through renewable power. This is important. It's especially important in the future because, as we know, in ERCOT this time almost last year, we had a big problem. With so much crypto rushing into a power market, in ERCOT in particular, this only gets worse. And this is the operating reserve margin. This is a North American Reliability Council rating on the reliability of a grid and the likelihood of that grid to actually deliver demand at a forecast peak. This should be a real warning sign to you. If you follow the trends of all this load coming into ERCOT, this gets worse. Okay? Now, if you care about clean and green power, you also want to know what percentage of renewable power is on that grid. It also impacts economics. The tighter the reserve margin and the more intermittent renewable power in a power market, the more volatile prices are likely to be, right? The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. That volatility will create price spikes. That's great for crypto. You want that because that turns your flexibility into a revenue source. So, question. In 2021 alone, if you had a 100 megawatt mining operation and you offered in its full flexible capability into the ERCOT market, how much would that 100 megawatt mine earn? $86 million. Your power cost would have been $65 million. You would have made $20 million bucks. Now, of course, February 2021 was an anomaly, as we know. Prices spiked to $9,000 a megawatt hour for an entire week. That's not possible anymore. The cap's been reduced from 9,000 a megawatt hour to 5,000 a megawatt hour. But had your full flexibility been offered in, you would have made more money than you spent. That's the power of crypto's flexibility. I'm not going to go through this. This removes the 2021 figures. What you'll see is the stack, the order ranking of total power costs doesn't actually change. It's about the same as when you include 2021 prices. It's important to note, in every single one of these power markets, you see significant mining operations. It's also important to note what we mean by flexibility. Those prices only were real-time wholesale power market prices. It doesn't include the effects of buying a power contract on a hedge. It doesn't include distribution, local distribution charges. It's just the megawatt hour charge in the wholesale market. It also assumes you have the ability to curtail at least 100 hours of your operation, which we haven't seen any issue in the crypto community doing. We see typically 100 to 500 hours of flexibility in those loads. Of course, that's not tied to your service level agreements. Let's talk about stacking and weaving. What does it mean to monetize your flexibility? These wholesale power markets all need 3 products that are typically delivered through central power stations. They need capacity, they need energy, and they need ancillary services. For those of you who are new to those concepts, it's a simple way to think about it if you've got a car. Capacity is the peak output horsepower of your engine. So if you've got like an Audi R8 and it's got a 525 horsepower rating, well, that's if you're redlining it at 9,000 RPM. But you're not operating it at that level most of the time. That's its peak capability. That's capacity. Energy is the gasoline in that R8's tank. The ability to operate that engine's capacity over time as you drive down the road. That's energy. That's a megawatt hour. Capacity is a megawatt. Ancillary services are the transmission. That's the grid operator's way of balancing supply of power and demand for power in real time. And there are a whole host of services within ancillary services. You might have heard frequency regulation, frequency response, operating reserves, 10-minute spin, 30-minute supplemental. Those are all just real-time balancing resources typically provided by central power stations. Now, distributed energy resources can deliver that. In fact, crypto is an ideal ancillary services load. So as you can see, stacked up by market, the average total annual value per megawatt hour varies significantly by region. And because of the spike in February 2021, ERCOT stands out. It's actually the economic demand response and the energy savings when prices are spiking to $9,000 a megawatt hour. That differentiates ERCOT in 2021. But every one of these markets has a tremendous amount of value for the flexibility of your load. And crypto can provide capacity, energy, and ancillary services. Last thing before I get to the hot take, and then I'm glad to answer any questions you might have. One of the things that we do with our marketplace software platform is we, of course, have a lot more than just crypto loads on that platform. We've got steel mills, we've got hotels, we've got supermarkets, big box retailers, every kind of widget manufacturer, you name it. We have every type of distributed energy resource. We have energy storage, distributed generation, building management system, load flexibility, obviously crypto. We have a lot of industrial customers. Those industrial customers have a lot of open capacity on their switchgear. It might be a coal mine that used to be operating at 50 megawatts and now it's at 10 megawatts. And so we connect our crypto customers to those industrial loads to very quickly site mining operations. I guess that's part of my shameless plug. All right, so I'm going to leave you with this. Wow, I'm right on time. I've got a minute and a half left. You got to think about the future. It's not about where the lowest costs are today. It really is the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years. Where is the total cost of power going to be most advantageous to you? And where are there going to be reliability challenges? And where is there going to be a lot of renewable penetration? My hot take is SPP is where it's at. And you can still stay in Texas. North Texas, SPP is great. Oklahoma, SPP is amazing. So if I were siting a 100 megawatt mine today, that's where I'd go.